Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're plunging headfirst into a topic that is really rapidly reshaping the AI landscape, but it's one that still feels like it's just, emerging from the shadows for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
We're talking about something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Now, you might have seen the acronym pop up maybe in tech feeds or perhaps caught a glimpse of its power in a demo somewhere.
Right.
But truly grasping what MCP is and more profoundly its immense impact on how we build and interact with AI, that remains a bit of a nuanced challenge, I think.
That's precisely our mission today. We want to go beyond just the buzzwords, the surface level descriptions.
Okay.
Our goal is to deliver a really crystal clear, deep understanding of what MCP truly is. We want to trace its fascinating genesis. It started from a pretty simple developer frustration
Well,
all the way to becoming this burgeoning industry standard and really illuminate why it's becoming such a pivotal piece of the AI puzzle right now, especially for you, the listener, the learner, who wants to quickly grasp complex tech but with real-world relevance. This deep dive, it's designed to connect those dots, show you exactly why this protocol matters so much for the future of AI apps.
and to give us this kind of insider's perspective, we've pulled from, well, an invaluable source, a recent YouTube transcript. It features the architects of MCP themselves.
Yeah, the people actually building it.
Exactly. We're talking about Alex, Theo, who's a product manager on MCP, and David, one of its co-creators, all from Anthropic. These aren't just commentators, These are the folks directly involved in creating it, evolving it. It gives us this unparalleled insight into, well, the genesis and the future paths for this tech.
Definitely. It's straight from the source.
Yeah. Okay, let's truly unpack this. So let's begin at the absolute foundational level. For someone encountering this term, maybe for the very first time, or perhaps they've heard it vaguely but haven't had the chance to dig in, what is the Model Context Protocol at its simplest? How would you, articulate its core function without immediately getting super technical?
Right. Well, at its essence, MCP is described by its creators as, and this is a quote, just a way for putting my workflow into AI applications in a very simple way.
Okay, simple way. I like
Yeah, it's basically a standardized method. Think of it like a common language, maybe, to give robust, structured context to any application that uses a large language model, an LLM.
Uh-huh.
It's really about bridging that critical gap,
Yeah.
between the LLM itself, that powerful text-generating brain,
Yeah.
and the messy, dynamic, often disparate external world, the world of data sources, tools, user interactions, all that stuff.
Right, the real world stuff it needs to connect to.
Right. Exactly. Its purpose is to allow the model to not just understand, but also to act upon and interact with the data and capabilities specific to your application. And crucially, in a predictable and consistent manner.
That immediately sounds like a pretty significant evolution, because when we talk about context in this specific MCP framework, it's clearly not just, pasting a block of text into a prompt window.
No, definitely not.
It's a much richer concept, more dynamic, maybe more actionable. Can you elaborate on the different kinds of context that MCP is designed to handle?
Yeah, you're spot on. The term context within MCP is incredibly broad. It covers several really powerful elements. So, for instance, it can explicitly define tools.
Tool.
Yeah, tools that the LLM can invoke to perform specific actions out in the real world.
Ah, okay, so actions.
Right. This isn't just about providing information. It's about enabling the model to do things, take action. Beyond that, it can also be raw context, which is essentially any kind of data or informational content you want to feed into the LLM's processing pipeline.
Like files or data.
Exactly. Unstructured text stocks, database entries, internal wikis, maybe even live sensor data. Its purpose is to, fuel the model's understanding and reasoning.
Right.
Maybe drive something like a retrieval augmented generation pipeline, RG.
Right, like giving it the background knowledge it needs.
Precisely. Ultimately, it's designed to handle, and this is another quote, whatever you like it to be, which really highlights its immense flexibility in integrating all these diverse types of information capabilities.
That flexibility sounds incredibly powerful. It's almost like giving the LLM, I don't know, a set of eyes and hands for the digital world, maybe.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
But my immediate follow-up question is, how does this truly differ from just, calling an API or passing information into a model's prompt, which, let's be honest, we've been doing for a while now? What's the fundamental shift? What makes MCP the special sauce here?
That's a crucial distinction and really the core insight behind MCP. The critical point is this. Large language models themselves, They don't inherently interact directly with traditional APIs, not in the way a typical software application might.
Okay.
They interact with the structured prompts, the defined tools, the specific data that is given to them. That's their world.
Right.
So MCP enters the picture precisely by, quote, standardizing how you take that data from, whether it's an API or some internal data source or whatever it is, how you take that data and then actually give it to the model.
Ah, okay. So it's the how.
It's the how. This standardization, this structured, predictable way of packaging and delivering information and capabilities to the model, that is the core differentiator. It's not just about passing data, it's a protocol for interaction. It ensures the LLM gets information in a format it can reliably understand and act upon, regardless of where it came from, the source's original format or API.
Ah, so it's not just the data itself, but the format and the method of delivery that's standardized. It's like a universal translator, maybe? Or a standardized data format.
Exactly. That's a really good way to think about it.
Ensuring seamless communication between all these different data sources and the LLM itself, no matter the API or internal system they came from. Okay, this really clarifies why it's more than just, say, an API wrapper. It's about creating a common, intelligible language for these LLM-centric applications.
Precisely.
This kind of foundational approach, it feels like it could eventually make LLMs as versatile as, I don't know, a web browser.
Yeah, interesting.
Instead of being stuck with these bespoke one-off integrations, they could, in theory, interact with any application that exposes an MCP server. It could become like a universal interface for the digital world. Is that the kind of long-term vision, a sort of LLM browser for real-world capabilities?
That's certainly an aspirational vision, and it definitely speaks to the protocol's potential.
Yeah.
By providing this consistent interaction layer, MCP enables a much broader, much more flexible integration ecosystem. It massively simplifies the development process for anyone building an AI application.
Right.
It lets them focus on the model's intelligence and the user's workflow rather than getting bogged down in the weeds of countless bespoke integrations.
Yeah, that makes sense. Less plumbing, more building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It moves us closer to a world where LLMs can dynamically discover and use capabilities across the digital landscape.
Yeah.
Much like a browser navigates web pages.
Given that it's a protocol, there must be like a defined set of interfaces, specific components that a server following this protocol has to expose. What are those main aspects, the three pillars, as I think they're often called?
Yes, indeed. There are three core components that an MCP server must expose for an AI application to interact with it effectively and intelligently.
Okay.
First up, we have tools.
Tools again, right.
Yep. These are described as actions that the model can take out in the world. So think of them as callable functions, discrete capabilities the LLM can invoke.
Okay.
This is what really elevates an LLM beyond just generating text. It lets it actively engage with external systems.
So give me an example.
Okay, a tool could allow Claude to send an email or query a specific database for, say, real-time sales figures, maybe generate a financial report from a CRM system, or even order supplies directly from an inventory management system.
Wow. Okay. Pretty powerful.
Yeah. Each tool has a clear purpose, defined input-output structure that the LLM understands and can use. It moves us from just passive generation to active execution.
Got it. So tools is number one. What's second?
Second, there are resources.
Resources.
These are described as just raw data that you could ingest into a RAG pipeline or whatever you want it to do.
So this is the information part.
Exactly. Resources are about providing the LLM with relevant information to reason over, analyze, inform its responses or actions. This could be all sorts of data, raw text files like company policy docs, maybe architectural blueprints, legal stuff, even live sensor data streams. The key here is that these resources are made available to the model, allowing it to retrieve, process, and synthesize information dynamically. So in our RAG pipeline, for example, these resources would be the knowledge base it pulls facts from to make its answers more accurate, more grounded.
Makes sense. Tools for action, resources for information. What's the third pillar?
And finally, we have prompts.
Prompts. But we already have prompts.
These aren't just any prompts. They are explicitly defined as prompt templates.
Okay, templates. How does that work?
These are predefined structures of text that a user can easily trigger and inject right into the context window. They represent, quote, what a user wants to put into the context window by themselves and just trigger by the user and just put it into the context window, and then they can edit it as they want to.
Ah, so it's like a shortcut.
Exactly. It gives users a powerful shortcut to common or complex prompt structures without having to manually type them out every single time.
Yeah.
It's really about operationalizing common workflows.
So if I understand correctly, these prompt templates, how do they actually show up in AI applications? What do they look like to the user?
Yeah, good question. They're typically seen as a slash command in many AI applications.
Ah, like in Slack or Discord.
Precisely. So you might type summarize, and boom, it instantly pulls in a predefined template for summarization. Or maybe debug code, which could automatically inject relevant error logs and code snippets, setting up Claude to analyze and suggest fixes.
Okay, I see.
It transforms the user experience from just free-form text input to a more structured, efficient, guided interaction.
That's a significant user benefit right there. It's not just saving time, not having to type out the same long prompt again and again. It also enforces efficiency, a more structured interaction with the LLM. It helps guide both the user and the model into these really effective workflows. It's almost like an intelligent assist.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So, okay, let me recap. MCP. Through these three pillars, tools for actions, resources for information, and prompt templates for structured interaction, it provides this standardized way for an LLM to interact externally, ingest data, and use predefined prompts.
You got it.
This sounds incredibly foundational, which makes me wonder, how did something this pivotal actually come about? And here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, the origin story is actually pretty cool.
So knowing how fundamental this protocol is now, I'm always fascinated by these origin stories. Was MCP like the result of some big top-down strategic plan within Anthropic, or was it more organic, maybe born out of necessity?
The absolute origin was perhaps surprisingly incredibly personal and deeply relatable, I think, to anyone who juggles information across multiple apps. It sprang directly from David's own acute frustration. See, he worked on internal developer tools, and he found himself constantly, quote, having to copy things in and out of Claude Desktop and then copying things back and forth between my IDE, his coding environment.
Ah, the classic copy-paste nightmare.
Exactly. He was dealing with code snippets, internal docs, bug reports, all this text-based information. And his initial thought, the very spark of MCP, was simply, how can I solve copy and pasting the things I care about the most between these two applications?
Wow.
That's truly where MCP started in his mind. Just addressing a very practical, everyday pain point for developers, not some grand strategic vision initially.
That's such a classic innovation story, isn't it? Solving a personal annoyance that turns out to be a massive problem for so many other people. And then he brought someone else into the fold who helped scale that initial idea, right?
Yes, exactly. He explained his idea to Justin, who's referred to as the other co-creator. And Justin apparently immediately saw the broader potential, beyond just David's specific copy-pasting issue. Justin really took it and ran it, transforming that initial concept into a more generalized, more robust protocol. And that led to its integration into Claude Desktop.
Okay.
But the true pivotal moment, the point where it genuinely clicked for a much wider audience internally, was something entirely unexpected and, frankly, quite remarkable.
Oh, do tell.
This brings us to what was described as a pivotal moment, an internal hackathon. This was back in September of last year.
Okay, a hackathon. Standard tech company stuff.
Right, but the striking thing about this hackathon was its completely open-ended nature. Quote, everyone was free to build basically whatever they wanted to build. No mandate, no specific tech focus.
Total freedom.
Total freedom. Yet what happened was genuinely surprising, almost astonishing. Quote, it turns out everyone just built an MCP.
Wait, everyone?
Everyone. It was described as crazy. David recounts how everyone's ideas were, although what if we made this an MCP server? It wasn't just a few teams. It was this spontaneous explosion of interest and adoption across the board.
That hackathon wasn't just, internal enthusiasm. That sounds like a powerful, unplanned validation of MCP's core value.
Absolutely.
When you give engineers complete freedom and they all spontaneously converge on the same solution, that signals something deeper than just a neat feature. It suggests it's solving a really fundamental shared pain point so effectively that it just became the default.
You nailed it.
What specific aha moments do you think drove that unanimous adoption? And what does it reveal about the future of AI integration, you think?
Well, I think the core reason for that spontaneous adoption was simple but profound. Quote, That standardization layer just made it so much easier to add context to the application.
Ah, simplicity.
Simplicity and efficiency.
Hmm.
Think about it from a developer's perspective. Traditionally, integrating an external system meant writing bespoke code for each one. Time-consuming, error-prone, a maintenance nightmare.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, right. But with MCP, once Claude, or really any AI application, is integrated with the protocol, a server builder gains immense efficiency. They can create, quote, 1 to 10, 20, however many servers you want, and you know that it will automatically work with that application.
Whoa.
This frees developers to, quote, only think about one side, the server side, exposing the tools and data, and not constantly worry about the specifics of the AI application side. It removes this huge burden of compatibility. It lets them focus on the logic of the integration, not the plumbing.
Less friction, faster development.
Exactly. And there's also apparently a bit of a magic moment.
Magic moment.
Yeah, quote, when you teach Claude something new using an MCP server for the first time, and you see it takes action about something you care about, the swiftness is often highlighted. Within 5 minutes, there's something going.
Ah, that immediate feedback.
That immediate, tangible result. Seeing your AI suddenly gain a new capability and act on it, that's incredibly exciting for developers. It accelerates the feedback loop, makes development feel much more fluid, more impactful.
Right. I've seen it myself, and I mean, even experienced it. It almost feels like you take Claude out of the box, so to speak, and suddenly it's not just this powerful text outputting machine anymore.
Yeah, it becomes an actor.
It's doing other things, it's calling other applications, fetching other data, truly interacting with the real world. And it goes beyond just typical software integrations. The hackathon projects you mentioned, they ran the gamut from, quote, very standard things like Slack integration,
Productivity stuff.
all the way up to, quote, people who like steered their 3D printer with MCP.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Operating a 3D printer with an LLM, generating commands for a physical device.
Yeah.
That's truly mind-blowing. It vividly highlights how MCP allows this integration pretty seamlessly. That magic moment you talked about where it bridges digital and physical, that's what I imagine developers are constantly chasing.
Yeah.
This spontaneous adoption, it just speaks volumes about the protocol's inherent utility and ease of use. So this incredibly successful internal hackathon happened, late summer, early fall last year. When did MCP officially launch to the public? And what was that initial reception like? Was it an immediate hit, or did it take some time to catch on outside of Anthropic?
Right, so it officially launched publicly around Thanksgiving, so November 2024.
Okay.
And the initial reception, frankly, was slow at first.
Oh, really? After the hackathon success?
Yeah. The most common response, even internally at first, was a perplexed, what's MCP? There was a lot of confusion. And they readily admit, quote, naming is hard. Even joking they could have named it better.
Ah, naming is hard.
It really is.
Yeah.
Many people initially confused it with MPC, multi-party computation, or even MPC, non-player character.
Oh, dear. Yeah, acronym soup.
Exactly. It highlights the challenge of introducing a new acronym into an already dense tech lexicon. The value proposition just wasn't immediately apparent to everyone right out of the gate.
Okay, so it started slow. How did it gain momentum?
Well, the tide began to turn, slowly but surely. Quote, as people started playing around with it and seeing it for themselves, I think that's where it actually slowly caught steam.
Hands-on experience.
Exactly. The real turning points were when more and more clients kind of started adopting it. IDEs, the integrated development environments, were among the first to really integrate MCP. They saw its power for developer workflows pretty quickly.
Makes sense for developers.
Yeah. And then more recently, there's been a lot of adoption from model providers themselves.
Ah, other AI platforms.
Right. This widespread adoption by major AI platforms created, quote, a lot of kind of waves in the market to incentivize a lot more server providers to actually build servers for MCP.
The network effect kicks in.
Precisely. It created this powerful network effect. Client adoption encouraged server development made clients more valuable. It just started building this self-reinforcing ecosystem.
That's a textbook example of network effects in action, yeah, where the utility and adoption just snowball. And I've definitely seen the social proof of that. You see it play out so often on social media, right?
Oh, yeah.
People initially asking, what is MCP? Why would I ever want this? And then literally like a month later, a few days later, they're going to be like, this is the best thing ever. It's quite funny to witness that transformation.
Absolutely.
It speaks to how quickly the value clicks once people actually engage with it.
We have so many of those anecdotal stories, people moving from skepticism to, fervent adoption very quickly. It's truly fascinating to watch something go from relative obscurity to becoming so widely accepted as this fundamental integration mechanism.
And it seems fair to say now that it has rapidly become an, a quote, industry standard of like integration protocol, which is amazing progress in a short time.
It really is.
What's even more interesting to me, though, given how competitive the AI landscape is the key decision to make this protocol open source that felt, quote, pretty different in comparison to maybe previous efforts in this area. Can you explain the deeper reasoning behind that? Why was open sourcing it so strategically important?
Yeah, it was a very deliberate and, I think, strategically profound choice. Think about it. In a closed ecosystem for integrations, where maybe one AI provider dictates how integrations work.
Right, a walled garden.
Exactly.
Uh,
Server builders face huge uncertainty. You have to ask themselves, is that AI application going to be around forever? Should I invest heavily in building for that one specific platform? Which one should I even bet on?
yeah, lots of risk.
Huge risk. This creates significant friction. It limits innovation because developers are hesitant to commit resources to proprietary standards that might just disappear. By making MCP an open standard, you drastically, quote, decrease the friction to even building those integrations. Developers don't have to bet on a single vendor anymore. They can build for an open, interoperable standard that multiple AI applications can, and hopefully will, support. This massively broadens the potential market for any MCP server they build.
So it de-risks it for the ecosystem builders.
Absolutely. But beyond that practical friction reduction, there's a core belief driving this decision. Quote, the value of building an AI application is not necessarily which integrations you have access to, but the model's intelligence and the workflow that you build on top of the model.
Ah, focusing on the core AI value.
Precisely. By open sourcing MCP, the goal was to, quote, focus the industry on those two things, advancing core model intelligence and fostering innovative, complex workflows built around LLMs. Instead of having every company reinvent the wheel or compete solely on building proprietary walled garden integrations, it redirects the competitive landscape towards what truly matters: superior AI capabilities and transformative user experiences. So if you're a company building an LLM, you don't need to spend all your resources building every possible integration. You can rely on the community to build those MCP servers, and your focus stays on making your model smarter.
That makes so much sense. It brilliantly shifts the focus from who owns the pipes to who can build the most intelligent and useful applications on top of those pipes.
Exactly.
And there's also the inherent benefit of open source itself, right? Creating that virtuous cycle where somebody contributes to a server, then somebody else uses it, notices bugs, and thinks, oh, hey, I can just go fix it myself.
Totally.
And that probably accelerates development, debugging, feature expansion just immensely.
That community contribution aspect is massive.
Yeah.
Users aren't just passive consumers. They become active participants, co-creators. If they find an issue or a security vulnerability or see an opportunity for improvement or a new feature, they have the ability to contribute directly. This collaborative model accelerates development, makes the protocol more robust, ensures it evolves to meet real-world needs much faster than any closed system ever could. And as a charming side note, one of the co-creators admitted, quote, Justin and I just like open source.
Huh. Sometimes it's that simple.
Sometimes the simplest personal preference aligns perfectly with the optimal strategic path.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that passion for open source truly benefits everyone. Faster development, more robust tools, a more collaborative future for AI apps, which ultimately benefits you, the listener, whether you're a developer, a product manager, or just someone using these incredible new AI tools.
Couldn't agree more.
So we've traced its origins from that developer pain point, saw the hackathon adoption, understood the open source strategy. Now let's talk about the current state. What does this industry standard status actually look like across the industry now? We hear lots of companies adopting MCP, lots of developers creating servers. What's the tangible landscape? What's MCP's expanding universe look like right now?
Yeah, the current state is pretty impressive. It shows remarkable momentum. You've got major players adopting it across their products, integrating it into core offerings. And crucially, there's a really big ecosystem of MCP server builders. The number mentioned was 10,000 plus.
10,000, wow.
Yeah, and these aren't just internal teams. They span individual open source contributors, small startups, all the way to large enterprise development teams building custom integrations. It's a really broad base.
Okay.
What's particularly fascinating right now is that MCP is at this interesting inflection point in its evolution.
Oh, how so?
Initially, it was, quote, mostly focused on developers, and a very local experience, where the servers would run local and the software they use it would run local.
Right, like on your own machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine a developer running Claude Desktop locally, interacting with an MCP server, also running locally, maybe managing their local code or dev tools. Powerful for individual productivity prototyping. But now we're witnessing a significant shift. Quote, we're starting to see these servers being hosted like in the cloud, like as a web thing, through what we call remote MCP.
Remote MCP. Okay, that sounds like a big deal.
It's a monumental leap.
Mhm.
Claude AI integrations is like really the first big entry to that, allowing you to connect, quote, just like a website like that offers an MCP server into your day-to-day Claude AI workflow.
So I don't need to run the server myself anymore.
Exactly. You can connect to a cloud-hosted MCP server provided by a third party. This gives Claude access to web services, enterprise systems, maybe even other AI models completely seamlessly. This is pivotal because it fundamentally changes the scope of MCP. It could truly become, quote, a true standard for the web for how, like, LLMs interact with that, not just locally, but globally across the internet.
Wow, so it's rapidly moving beyond just local developer tools to potentially becoming a broader web standard, transforming how LLMs engage with the entire internet. That's a huge leap, truly enabling distributed AI capabilities.
That's the direction it's heading, yeah.
How is the community supporting this kind of exponential growth?
Well, that's the beauty of it. Supporting this growth is an increasingly bigger community that's being actively built around it. This includes not just big companies contributing to the protocol's evolution, but also, crucially, dedicated, open-source people who just like working on MCP.
The grassroots effort continues.
It does. And as a testament to that community ownership and agility, the creators share this little anecdote. Just one morning, someone in the community fixed an outdated image in their documentation, submitted a pull request, boom, immediately accepted.
Nice.
That's the undeniable beauty of open source. Quote, that's why you want to do it open source. The community feels genuine ownership, actively helps maintain, improve, evolve the protocol.
That's fantastic.
And beyond just the sheer number of server builders, there's a lot of higher level activity. There are now conferences on MCP, dedicated entirely to its development and applications. That signals a really mature, engaged ecosystem.
A whole conference. Wow.
Yeah. And there are active partnerships where we work with big companies on evolution of the specification to meet their specific, often complex needs. This includes learning a lot about enterprise deployments and the needs for identity and authorization in that space from some top security experts, which is absolutely crucial for large-scale secure adoption, especially in regulated industries.
Right. Security has to be baked in for that scale. That's truly awesome. I'm blown away by the response and the organic growth. I'm starting to see posts online now, people asking things like, is this what it looks like to witness the birth of a new protocol? Is this like what it was like to be around for HTTP or something?
Yeah, the HTTP comparison comes up.
How do you and the team kind of liken those comparisons? Is MCP really positioned to become a new foundational internet protocol like that? Or how should we frame this compared to things we've seen before?
Well, it's definitely a bold and exciting comparison. And certainly, as they say, none of us can see the future. You can only knock on wood that we've landed on the right thing in terms of the problem space and the solution design.
Hope for the best.
Exactly. The hope is that they have, quote, hit on the right problem of providing context to LLMs in a standardized way.
Yeah.
And have thought far enough ahead that all the right building blocks are there for future evolution. When you compare it to HTTP, yeah, there are parallels in ambition. Both aim to be universal, standardized ways for different systems to communicate over a network. HTTP standardized how browsers talk to servers to get documents. MCP aims to standardize how intelligent agents, LLMs, talk to any external system to perform actions, get data, offer templates.
So AI to computer interaction.
Pretty much. It's less human to computer, more AI to computer at a foundational level. The key is enabling that interoperability and extensibility, letting an ecosystem flourish without central control. Ultimately, the community will help guide its evolution, much like web standards evolved. From David's perspective, the goal remains simple. Quote, just make something that people want to use.
Yeah.
If it fulfills that core need, keeps growing organically, then it will find its rightful place.
Yeah.
Maybe defining a new layer of the internet without needing a direct comparison to past giants.
That's a very grounded, yet still incredibly ambitious perspective. The true test is always utility and adoption. So for you, the listener, especially if you're a developer new to MCP, you're thinking, okay, this sounds amazing. I want to get involved, learn how to work with it. What are the first practical steps? How do you actually get started with MCP today?
Right, good question. First thing I'd strongly recommend, go look at an existing server that is online. Don't try to build from scratch right away.
Okay, observe first.
Yeah, play around with it. See how it works with Claude AI or Claude Desktop if you want to play around with local MCPs. Just get a feel for what that interaction pattern is first. Watch how Claude uses a tool, how it interprets a resource, how a slash command feels from the user side. Understanding how it works for the user makes building much easier.
So try before you build?
Definitely. Explore the Claude AI integrations section, enable a public MCP server there, maybe for a knowledge base or a productivity tool, and just see how Claude uses it.
Okay.
Once you have that intuitive feel, then you can start with the classic, hello world.
A Hello World MCP server.
Exactly. Don't try to build something super complex immediately. Just do one tool, a really simple one, have it respond with hello world. Then do the same thing for prompts, resources. Try the most basic implementation for each pillar before getting fancy. The key is, quote, once people get a feel for that, they realize how easy it is to implement the basics. The barrier to entry for a simple functional server is surprisingly low.
Keep it simple at first.
And honestly, just start local. If you're using a tool like Claude Code, just whip out Claude Code and just write code like an MCP server. You'll find that, quote, with like 10 minutes, you can have something basic and functional running.
10 minutes? Seriously?
For something basic, yeah. That immediate feedback loop of building locally is incredibly empowering. It helps solidify your understanding really quickly. Many developers find it beneficial to start in their familiar local environment before thinking about cloud stuff.
That immediate feedback loop you described, that sounds incredibly empowering. It reminds me of these stories I've heard circulating among developers, how some have used tools like Claude Code, just pointed at the MCP docs, and the AI itself can kind of parse that, grab the components, and literally spin up a basic server.
Yeah, that happens.
Is that kind of rapid prototyping, that ability for the AI to almost bootstrap its own tools, is that the true Hello World experience you envision? And what does that suggest about the future of developer workflows?
It absolutely is part of the vision. When the AI itself can assist in creating these integration points, it's a profound acceleration. Developers spend less time on boilerplate, more time on the unique logic and intelligence they want to embed.
Right.
It suggests a future where the AI becomes an even more integrated co-developer, translating high-level intentions into functional code and infrastructure, truly unlocking unprecedented rapid prototyping. It's about lowering the technical barrier, not just by standardizing the protocol, but by having the AI help you implement that standard.
Mind blown again. Okay, so given all this incredible flexibility and ease of use, what are some of the favorite or maybe most surprising MCP servers that have been seen out in the wild so far? What truly highlights the creative potential here, moving beyond just the typical enterprise stuff?
Oh, there are so many cool ones. But the ones that really capture the imagination are the creative ones, and especially those that, quote, bridge the gap to like the real world.
Demonstrating.
Tangible, often physical interaction.
Ooh, physical world stuff. Like what?
Yeah. Well, for instance, as a music lover myself, I'm particularly fascinated by an MCP server someone created to control their synthesizer.
Claude making music.
Literally. Imagine Claude, the LLM, not just writing lyrics, but interacting with a physical electronic instrument, sending commands to change parameters, generate melodies, trigger sounds. Claude might respond to a prompt like, create a melancholic synth pad with a long release, and the MCP server translates that into MIDI or SOSC commands for the synth, digital intent into analog sound. That's just incredibly cool.
That is cool. What else?
Another fascinating one involves 3D modeling software, specifically Blender.
Blender. How?
There's an MCP server that, quote, writes like Blender scripts into Blender. You give Claude high-level instructions like create a scene with a red cube, a blue sphere, and a green cylinder. Arrange them triangularly. Claude calls the tools from the MCP server. The server generates the Python scripts for Blender, and then Blender automatically creates the scene, maybe even renders or animates it.
Ooh. No manual scripting.
Exactly. Programmatic control over complex creative software via natural language. It's mind-blowing.
That is wild. Any other examples?
And then there are other more whimsical but equally impactful ones, like one team member who has Claude, quote, control his door through like an MCP server and like role play a doorman.
A doorman AI.
Yeah. It's a playful demo of home automation. You can imagine telling Claude, "Morning, Claude, open the blinds, start the coffee, unlock the front door for the delivery." The MCP server interfaces with the smart home devices, letting Claude perform a sequence of real-world actions from a natural language command. It just showcases the, quote, endless possibilities when you connect LLMs to the physical world.
The sheer breadth of those applications, synth control, 3D rendering, smart homes, it really underscores the protocol's flexibility. It truly suggests that almost any digitally addressable system could, in theory, be brought under an LLM's control via MCP.
That's the potential, yeah.
This level of extensibility is incredible. But does it also introduce new considerations, like around security or unintended consequences, especially as these integrations move from local setups to cloud-hosted environments?
That's a vital question. Absolutely. As capabilities expand and move into more critical or real-world applications, security becomes paramount. Now, the design of MCP inherently includes mechanisms for defining what tools or resources a model has access to, limiting its scope.
Okay, so there are built-in limits.
Yes, but for cloud-hosted or enterprise deployments, you need more. Robust identity management, authorization, auditing capabilities, those become absolutely essential. This is precisely why, as we discussed, those ongoing partnerships with large companies and security experts are crucial. To evolve the specification to meet those stringent enterprise needs for identity and authorization.
Right, building security in.
It's a continuous process,
Right.
building security primitives directly into the protocol's evolution, ensuring this powerful extensibility is managed responsibly.
That's excellent to hear those considerations are baked into the evolution.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. We just recently saw the release of new, more capable models like Claude 4 Opus and the new Sonnet, really pushing the boundaries of AI intelligence.
Yeah, big steps forward.
What do these advancements enable for MCP, and how does this connect into this broader theme we're seeing around agents? AIs that can kind of operate on longer time horizons with greater autonomy.
This is a critical intersection. The advancements in model intelligence directly unlock the full potential of MCP. As models gain more intelligence, becoming capable of longer-running tasks and more sophisticated reasoning, some of the primitives that we've actually built into MCP are going to become more used that right now may not have gotten as much adoption.
So primitives built in earlier now becoming more relevant.
Take statefulness, for instance. This isn't just about short-term memory, it's persistent context, allowing an agent to carry understanding across multiple turns, maybe even days or weeks.
Right, for longer projects. Exactly. Crucial for complex workflows. Managing a long-term project, handling multi-stage customer support, overseeing detailed research. With smarter models, they can maintain a coherent understanding of the task's state, making better decisions over time.
Okay, statefulness. What else?
Or consider sampling. This primitive lets the model explore multiple possible actions, interpretations, or pathways before committing to one.
Like brainstorming.
Kind of. Like how a human might weigh different strategies before acting. This leads to more robust, less brittle agentic behavior, reduces errors or hallucinations because the model can essentially think ahead and evaluate options. These are the underlying building blocks for a truly autonomous agent's world. And with more intelligent models, they can be fully leveraged to build far more capable, more reliable AI agents.
How about it?
It also probably just makes it easier to, quote, put more MCP servers, like attach it, because Claude will, quote, just going to get better and better at like distinguishing which one it needs to make to take action.
Better tool selection.
Yeah. The model's improved reasoning means it can intelligently select the right tool or resource from a larger, more diverse set of servers, even if they have overlapping capabilities.
Yeah.
Its ability to understand nuance and context improves its precision.
That's fascinating. So some primitives become more important as models get smarter. That raises a practical question.
Wow.
How many MCP servers can you actually throw at Claude at once? How does it know which one to choose if you give it tons of capabilities and data sources? Is there a limit?
That's a good, very practical question. The answer is, well, it depends.
The classic answer.
Yeah. It really hinges on how are the tools written within each server, and crucially, whether they are overlapping in their semantic description or function. If you, quote, put like 3 issue tracker MCP servers next to each other, of course the model can get confused.
Too similar.
Exactly. If their functions are too similar, the model might struggle with ambiguity. If all 3 offer a tool called create issue without enough distinguishing context, yeah, it can get confused. However, if it's like an issue tracker thing, and
Hmm.
something completely different like an internal knowledge base server or a weather forecasting tool, then it becomes pretty easy. You can put a lot of it next to each other.
Distinctiveness is key.
Semantic distinctiveness, yeah. And as models get more capable, their understanding improves, their ability to disambiguate and intelligently select the right server from a large, diverse set will only increase. It pushes those practical limits further. It's this continuous interplay between model intelligence and protocol design.
I see. So the more distinct the servers, the more Claude can handle, and smarter models get better at choosing. Okay, so with all these exciting developments, this clear trajectory, what's next for MCP? What can we anticipate in the near future?
Well, the protocol's live, adoption's great, but there's a clear and ambitious roadmap ahead. There's continued investment in just making it easier to understand and use more examples, better documentation, helping everyone from novices to big enterprises use it effectively.
Good foundational stuff.
Absolutely. And they're heavily investing in key security primitives. Essential as these systems get embedded into critical workflows and handle sensitive data, authentication, authorization, granular access control, all that.
Crucial for trust.
Definitely. But the big upcoming ship, the thing most people are really going to be excited about is accelerating agentic capabilities, how they're thinking about agents.
Okay, agents, what's coming?
For agents, one really significant development is the registry API.
Registry API.
Yeah. This is going to, quote, allow models to actually go and search for additional servers that they can then bring into the LLM.
Whoa, the model finds its own tools.
Exactly. This is a profound shift. It fosters, quote, a little bit more of an agentic loop. Imagine Claude needs to book a meeting. Instead of hitting a wall because it lacks a calendar integration with the registry API, Claude itself could query a central registry, dynamically discover available calendar MCP servers, evaluate them, and integrate the best one into its context, all without you pre-configuring it.
Just-in-time tool acquisition. That's huge.
It makes the AI far more adaptable, more autonomous.
Okay, registry API. What else for agents?
Second major area, long-running tasks. They're focused on, quote, actually making it easy for you to do longer-running things with MCP. True agentic behavior isn't just single-shot stuff. It's managing complex projects over time, remembering context, picking up where it left off.
Multi-step projects.
Right. Creative work, research assignments, project management. MCP is evolving to provide the structure for these persistent multi-turn interactions.
Makes sense. And the third?
And the third critical primitive is elicitation.
Elicitation, asking questions.
Pretty much. Enabling servers to, quote, go back and ask the user for more information if you need more information. Currently, if an agent lacks context, it might stop or guess. With elicitation, the server can prompt you for clarification or details in a structured way.
So it can ask for help.
That's exactly. Creates a more interactive, guided experience for complex workflows. If you ask Claude, summarize this for John, and it doesn't know John's preference, the server could elicit bullet points, narrative, or key takeaways for John. It makes agents far more collaborative and effective.
Exciting. This vision of agents dynamically discovering tools, managing long tasks, even asking for clarification, that really takes us into a new frontier for AI.
It really does.
It sounds like MCP isn't just an integration protocol anymore. It's becoming a foundational piece for building truly intelligent, autonomous agents.
Well, I'm incredibly excited to see what the future holds for MCP and its profound role in shaping AI interactions.
Me too. It's an exciting space to watch.
So we've journeyed from that simple personal solution to a developer's copy-paste problem, watched it evolve into this grassroots hackathon movement that just spontaneously embraced a new paradigm.
Yeah.
And now it stands as this burgeoning open source protocol,
Yeah.
actively enabling AI to interact with the real world, digital and physical, in ways that were pretty hard to imagine just a short time ago. And that, really, at its heart, is MCP's core value. Bridging that crucial gap between the powerful generative capabilities of LLMs and the dynamic external systems of our world.
Right.
It's what fundamentally transforms text generators into true agents of action, capable of performing complex tasks, interacting with data far beyond their initial scope. And this empowers you, the listener, whether you're a developer envisioning new apps, a product manager seeking efficiencies, or just a curious mind following the cutting edge, to truly understand and envision a future with far more dynamic, more intelligent AI applications.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Maybe consider that just as early web protocols like HTTP transformed how we access information,
Uh-huh.
MCP is beginning to transform how AI acts on information. It's not just what info is retrieved, but what actions can be taken, what changes affected, what new possibilities opened up by this seamless, structured interaction. We might just be witnessing the early days of something truly transformative in how AI is architected.
Which raises, I think, an important question for you to ponder. If the goal is truly to make AI more intelligent and capable, moving beyond just generating text to performing actions in the real world, how might a universal language for interaction like MCP fundamentally reshape the very definition of what an AI application can be in the coming years? Will all applications eventually become AI applications, maybe powered by this new protocol layer?
A lot to think about there indeed. We definitely encourage you to explore MCP and its potential further. Dive into the docs, check out existing servers, maybe even try building one yourself. Until our next deep dive, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep building.